to a fun-filled episode of Goodreads, which is a new thing that we're doing here at Fangirls Assemble. And joining me today, my partner in crime, Kristen. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm so good, because it's Goodreads Day.
Oh my goodness, aren't we so excited? So in order to help us with this Goodreads, it's Mr. Goodread. How are you today?
I am great. I am so happy to be here and have a show named after me now.
I mean, this is you have reached peakness. Like you have reached peak like human existence. Where
This doesn't really happen a lot.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm never going to top this moment. This moment is forever the top for me.
Oh, we are honored. We're honored. So, by the way, Kristen and Mr. Goodread, do you guys know each other? Have you met before?
No. How are you, though? I like your pink headphones.
Oh, thank you. They're very nice and pink. I've only used them once before.
Who's that on the wall to your right? I guess you're right?
This is Ollie.
No, the other side. On the wall back
the
there?
other right.
Yeah, your other right. That one. Yeah,
that's
who's
Taryn
that?
Gillian.
Oh, who's she with?
I think that's my wife. Oh, that's you.
We're being very dramatic for anyone who doesn't know. Reid's in that room, and there's a wall, and then I'm in this room.
We're fighting.
That's his joke. We're not fighting.
It's never not funny.
Never.
It's only funny for Reid.
It's really funny for me. It'll be really good until the time that we are fighting. And then
people really know. Free will be like, we can't do this show.
No, listen, guys. I was telling you guys just before they started, I'm like, we should do this as a regular Friday night thingy where you guys just come here and just keep me entertained. Just talk amongst yourself. Because as we were getting ready, like I was laughing so hard at everything you guys were saying to each other. I mean, it's just like, you guys are now my ship. Can real life couple be ships? Like, yeah, so you guys.
That's how that works. Yeah.
Now. So what's your couple name?
I feel like we had. We did have one. You made it up. You remember, don't you?
If it's Creed, I'm going to
Creed.
Oh, it's Creed.
Yeah. Creed. He was like, "It's Creed, right?" I think that was like pretty early on when we were dating too, and I was like, "Oh, I guess it is."
Yeah, it is. I completely forgot about that, and I'm upset with myself for forgetting about that.
Yeah. So you can see all this, this lovely romance between Kristen and how the Creed started in Reid's new book, Hardcore Anxiety.
Guys, I had it right here.
Oh my!
I've got it in
just lays in the desk.
I'm actually kicking myself because I just went there and I thought that I'll grab the book on my way. I forgot about that and I came here and just started the show. I'm so sorry.
We have so many copies of that book that
you guys are
everywhere.
drowning in it.
Yeah, I want to buy a whole separate calyx just for that book.
And then it's just gonna be filled with that.
And it's just gonna be sitting there. So anytime someone comes over, I'm like, hey, check out this.
Check this out.
If anyone watching now or later needs a copy, Reid could sign it for you. Get a special copy.
Yeah, just let us.
I'm trying to get the books out of the house.
we're hardcore anxiety dealers. That's what we are.
Yeah. I mean, the good news is though I loved it, but I think Faria genuinely loved it, which is actually like a really good review because I have a bias. You do not.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm your friend, and it would be weird if you said you didn't, but I think you really did.
No. I absolutely loved it. I loved that book. And the thing is, I know that you were biased because you were in it. So I don't know. I don't know whether you saying it's good kind of counts. But
although Reid knows, I tell him the truth.
That's true. She did get she had a lot of input. She read it.
Was it constructive input or it was destructive that made you go into the fetal position? It's like, oh, what have I done?
It was constructive.
Yeah.
It was constructive. She probably should have read it a lot sooner.
Excuse me, I did read it a lot sooner. But you gave the draft to people. We shouldn't talk about this. But I'm a good editor. That's all I'm saying. And I would have edited a little differently.
Remember when I said we were fighting?
We're actually fighting now. No, we're not.
But hardcore, and it's coming out in October 2nd.
Yeah, that's when it'll be available in like stores, like
comic shops.
Yeah, Diamond and everything. So it's available for pre-order through Diamond now. I don't know what the code is because I'm bad at this. I'll find it later, or Kristen will probably find it because she'll look it up on her phone like she's doing right now. And
yeah, because you all gotta go and get this book and read it, because once Reid becomes super famous, you're gonna know that, oh my God, it all started here.
It all started with this weird book that's real sad, but then kind of not sad and kind of sad.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so there's some sad in it.
There's a happy ending. Come on.
Yeah, it is.
I mean,
it's a good ending.
I mean, you guys you have now a show named after you.
Yeah,
so
that's your happy ending. You got to rewrite the book.
I'm gonna have to. That's gonna be the next book. Next book will end with the good Reids show.
We have to mention, by the way, Mary's in the chat, and she is saying, "Ollie, he's so cute."
Ollie.
So you should show everyone Ollie.
You know
the store Ollie's Bargain Outlet. That's Ollie.
I know.
Reid really had to have that bobblehead, and I judged him so much, and I still do.
I can't believe you guys have that.
You guys,
she
that's
got
Reid.
Real mad about it.
I do not have that. That's Reid.
She was not happy about it at all.
Oh my God. So anyway, so on one of the first time catching a live show from jolly old England, it's Carl Holland. Hey, Carl, thank you for joining us.
Hey, Carl, that's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. So the Reid's book, like he said, is it's sad, it's happy, then it's sad, it's kind of sad. But the book that we're talking about today, it is rather sad. And we thought that what better way to share our sadness, collective sadness about this book than talk about with us. So today's book that we're talking about is Murder Falcon by Daniel Warren Johnson. A book that, there you go, as Reid is showing off over there. It's all about punk rock, it's all about rock music.
Metal. Metal music.
It's all about.
That was
Maria didn't understand
never
the book.
sounded more out of your element.
You're like some kind of music with guitars.
There's a guitar and there's drums.
It's like those music that young whippersnappers nowadays listen to. Like it had those things like shredding guitar, you guys.
You use shredding correctly. That's good.
Yeah, you nailed that. Way to go.
All your metal terminology comes from this book, I'm sure.
Right, that it does. So
yeah.
This is a book that came highly recommended by Reid, who introduced us to it. And then we thought that once we read it, we're gonna have a Reads. But then we thought Goodreads is better because we love Goodreads around here.
Yeah.
So to get us started, Reid, what is this book about?
Okay. Well, Murder Falcon is about a band, overall kind of about a band called Bruticus that was a metal band. It has, this is the variant cover, but so no one's actually a motorcycle in it, but there you go. There's about this guy there. That's Jake. Mm-hmm. And Jake plays guitar and plays metal music. And there's like all these monsters that are terrorizing the world. And he gets this special power through, I'm trying to get there, through his guitar that can summon the power of this guy right there named Murder Falcon. And sometimes they call him Murph, but he's like this giant falcon with cargo pants and a red bandana and Chuck Taylors, and he just kicks ass all the time. And that's the Murder Falcon. And as you see here, metal will destroy all evil. And that's kind of like the rough thing, but there's like all these monsters terrorizing it, terrorizing all over the place. And it's kind of like Jake is going through like a real hard time, and he's got a real kind of tough like life story, and like lost some of his friends, and he's just like out of touch with music. And then he goes back through, and like through Murder Falcon, the character is like able to like get his life back together in certain ways, and then also save the world. And yeah, it's written and drawn by Daniel Warren Johnson, and it's colored by Mike Spicer. Daniel Warren Johnson's from Extremity, and a couple other like variant. He did a lot of variant covers. I think he drew Ghost Fleet with Donnie Cates, and then Space Mullet is like his first like creator-owned thing he did like online. It's real old, but I have a trade of it somewhere. I think it's upstairs. Kristen, I think, was looking for it, but yeah.
So he's mostly an artist then. So this is like his writing. He first wrote Extremity and then wrote this, correct?
Yeah, but he's written and drawn everything he's done.
Oh, okay.
Like,
yeah.
Yeah, he's never anything that he's wrote. He's also drawn. He's never just wrote something.
Okay. Well, thank you for that summary.
Yeah.
You're kind of worried, like, you know, if you did an excellent job. I gotta say,
you nailed it.
Nailed it.
Thank you.
Okay. So to get us going, Kristen, what did you think about this story?
Are we keeping it spoiler free?
Let's do spoiler free first.
Okay. I very much enjoyed it. I think though Reid's summary was great, it does go way deeper than just fighting monsters with metal, but we'll get into that. And that is obviously what I liked about it, because I don't care for metal, guys. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. I don't like Metallica. Anyway, I had to say that because you're wearing the Metallica shirt.
Rude.
Farina's like the Beatles. Anyway, but
we don't need to talk about that again.
Why do you have to throw me
the
under
last time I was on the show, that almost ended everything.
That's true. I won't mention it. I'm sorry. But I really enjoyed it. I liked it a lot. I think it's underrated.
So, Reid, did you like this book?
I absolutely loved it. Like, over the moon loved it. Like, I think this is probably, and it could just be, I will, full disclosure, I haven't read all that much in the world. And also, this is probably like perfectly catered to everything I love about in art, comics, and storytelling. But this is probably the best book I've read all year, definitely, and probably in my top 5 favorite comics.
That's a very big endorsement. So
yeah.
So I read the book with, like, you know, just after Reid talked about it, like, we got to read it. And then, you know, we know that how much we love Hoopla around here. And it was on Hoopla. The Hoopla credit was there. So then both Kristen and I like, let's do this. I read it. Reid, I cried so much. I hated you for that, because it's like reading just because of I'm crying so much. To be honest, though, it wasn't necessarily like tears, but it was just like this dry feeling that just left you like hollow. That's how I felt about reading it. And obviously, like, you know, as Kristen said, that, you know, like the summary is like the first, it appears to be that this guy, he's like kind of in a sad state, like, you know, in a not so good place in his life, and then he finds this, you know, get this guitar, and then this thing appear, and together they're fighting monsters and all of that. But that is just very much of a surface level, because when more and more things start to become apparent, especially when all his friends starting to get introduced, things take a turn for the weird, like, you know, and that's when you start. That's when you start, like, you know, getting hurt, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of like mostly what we can talk about spoiler. But I do feel like, even like, you know, non-spoiler, sorry. But even though I feel like we talk spoiler about this, you still should go read it, right? Like, it doesn't spoil anything. Like, if you know what I mean. Like, did you feel that way?
There's a few like big twists. I wouldn't even call them so much as twists. There's big events that happen that I think really impact the story, but I don't feel like it's like, oh, you ruined that for me. I think you should just, honestly, you should read it just for the art, because I think I can't speak more highly about Daniel Warren Johnson's art. I think it's unbelievable. And then on top of it, just like the way the storytelling goes, just like appreciation for the art of storytelling, I think is huge in this book.
Right. So I think like we're gonna then go into the spoiler section of it, and then kind of dig a little deeper.
Can you put up that last question in the chat?
Yes, I was.
Because
just
Reid
going
can
to
answer
read
that.
Yeah,
Oh.
Reid, what do you think about this question?
Okay.
While reading it, remember this.
While reading it, man, I would recommend some like old school stuff. I would listen to some Judas Priest. Honestly, like that's what I think of. Like when I hear this is like Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, I think of that kind of music. I will say Daniel Warren Johnson sure does like to endorse Power Trip, which if you haven't heard Power Trip, it rules, and you should listen to Power Trip too. Faria does not know who Power Trip is, but
I don't either, Faria.
I bet it'll be her favorite band after she hears it. It's a lot of noise. It's but anyway, yeah. I would say like some Priest or Maiden would be cool to listen to.
Any particular songs by either of the bands you're suggesting?
Just all of it. All of it.
Even for the very last issue, like the very last scene, would you recommend?
Can I recommend some love metal?
Oh yeah, you can recommend some hymn love metal.
I'm the only one who's like hymn. Listen to some hymn. That's not quite metal, guys. I know
it's not quite, but
hey, that'd be good for actually the last issue. Listen
that
to
probably
some, like,
would
light hymn.
Yeah, hymn would be pretty. That would be pretty fitting.
Do you know him, Freya?
No, I don't know him. Who's
okay,
him?
they were a Finnish band, and they like to say they were love metal because every song was like about a breakup, but they had like guitars, like heavy guitars
and
right?
synths.
Would that be a good way to?
And a lot of synth. Don't forget all the.
Oh yeah,
synth.
a ton of synth.
Mary M is saying, how about some power ballads from the 80s?
Some good power ballads could fit in there. I honestly can't think of any really good power ballads though.
But to be honest though, I would say that especially for that last scene, it's a little bit more powerful, I think, if you don't have music. Like,
yeah,
I think because it kind of takes that away, and then maybe like, I feel like it's just like you need that.
I mean, personally, I can't read with any music, but it would distract me too much.
Yeah. Some people can, but other, someone was saying, Stanley, I think Stan 3H, he's saying, how about I will do anything for love, but I won't do that.
That's good because like
Meatloaf.
Yeah, I mean, Meatloaf is awesome. I don't know if I'd really classify Meatloaf as metal because Kristen likes Meatloaf.
I like Meatloaf in Spice World.
Oh my god,
he was the bus driver.
Mariam is saying, like, she was being sarcastic, and I can't read with music either.
Yeah,
but that was like I remember Meatloaf in the Spice Girls. That was wild. That was pretty wild. Some wild stuff.
Ever.
Like, he actually
do
said
a whole Spice World episode. I'm not joking.
Let's do this.
Oh gosh,
I was losing my mind the whole time.
So then now we're gonna give you a spoiler warning. Like, be warned, we're gonna be spoiling something. But as we said, like, to be honest, this is more of a philosophical with a lot more like introspection and all of that going on. So even if we are talking about spoilers, it's not necessarily spoiling anything for you. You should still go and check this out.
You may be okay.
Yeah, you will be okay. But if you wanna, step out now and then go read this and come back, you can also do that too. So spoiler from now and out. So Kristen, you had a wild theory about this that apparently Reid didn't see.
Well, so there was a moment. I read it one night, and I was upstairs. Reid came up, and he's like, "So what'd you think?" And I said, "I really loved it." And specifically how, none of it really happened, and it was all like in his head because he was dying. So you do find out, for anyone who hasn't read it, that Jake has, was it brain cancer?
I think so, yeah.
I think so. I don't know if they really specify which kind of cancer, but
I think there's something about his head, though.
I thought so. I don't know.
Does anybody know? We're all like, we read it. I don't know.
It's not important. That's the thing.
I think there was a brain scan.
Right.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dialogue at some point. Yeah. And at first I thought it was, I think maybe a lot of people thought it was his wife, but then you realize it's him.
Right. Oh yeah.
And
right in the feels.
And then that's when, like, he sees Murder Falcon, and that happens, and then all this stuff happens in the middle, and then at the end, the very end, spoil the ending, but we're in spoilers. But there's that shot of he's back in the hospital. During the battle, he like gets hurt, right? The big battle, and they save the world or whatever. And he gets hurt, and he's back in the hospital bed where he'd been for a lot of his treatments and everything. Yeah, there it is. So that's his wife next to him and his friends. And then you see Myrtle Falcon in the corner there, the bottom corner. And then he's like, what is it? Reid, you said you know more things about the Reaper and everything, right?
Oh, well, that's, I mean, I could be wrong, and it's probably legally, it's not him, but it's him. Ronnie James Dio, of Dio and being in Sabbath fame. And, like, he shows up, and then he's like, and he calls himself, I am the voice of thousands, which is, like, the most epic thing on the planet. And it's awesome. And then, but yeah, you can keep talking. If you want me to explain the rest, I can.
Yeah, so then Jake's kind of like being ushered into the after death by him.
Mm-hmm.
And, he's kind of like sad that he's going to be alone or whatever, right? And then something like that. And Murder Falcon stands up. He's like, I'm going with you. And I'm like, yeah, Reid, because, like, he wasn't there the whole time. So, of course, he's going with him. And then when he stands up, like, nobody looks at him. So, clearly, this was, like, all in Jake's head, right? Like, this didn't really happen. Like, they're not in a fantasy world. And Reid's like, what are you talking about?
I honestly, like, I approached it 100% as, like, this is a world where there's crazy monsters. And that's, like, established from the beginning. And so I just assumed this is our reality.
Well,
so,
but
like,
yeah, that's the beginning, but then they have the flashback, right?
No, everything you're saying makes so much sense looking back. And I realized that I was just like, nah, there's giant monsters. There's a giant falcon that murders and fights monsters. Like, yeah, perfect. Like, I get it. This is this world. And then now I'm like, oh, maybe he was crazy and just dying. And
not even
crazy,
but like he could have been in a coma the whole time, or because he had, I think he had a brain thing. Who knows at this point? Because we're all right. But that would cause hallucinations,
right,
and throughout his journey in the book, like he gets his band back together, and there was a big thing with that where like he was supposed to be at the last gig or whatever, and he didn't show up. Right, it was like an important thing. And so throughout his journey, he's getting these friends and this band back together that was really important to him, and like wrapping up all these loose ties in his life because he's dying. And that's how I took it the whole time. But like maybe that didn't really happen, but his friends were there with him in the end. So
well, and that's also like, yeah, maybe I just thought that like that's just the reality we were in, because also his like each member of the band got a fighting partner with their instrument,
like their own avatar.
So, like, thank you. So they each got their own avatar, and so I was like, oh well, that all just like it just adds to it. And then we also
but none of those avatars were there at the end, right? So,
well, no, because they're not Jake's. Maybe
they went on his journey,
but they're not Jake's. They only come around when they play the instruments. Murder Falcon's around all the time.
Well, and I don't mean to keep on, but I told you my least favorite thing, I think, in this book was actually the whole what happened with him and his wife.
Yeah.
Where it's essentially implied that he got diagnosed with cancer and then kind of ran away from her. And, whenever he starts to bring the band back together and stuff, he goes to her house, right? To be like, hey, I need you or whatever. And it's like, hold on, how long has this been? Are you really saying that like it would be okay with anyone if they were like, yeah, I got cancer, I'm gonna peace out? Like, I don't know, that I didn't like that at all. So if I established in my head that I'm like, oh no, this was in his head, it makes more sense to me than a reality of that, because that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, I also will say it took forever for them to like really get to okay. I don't think they're okay when he first shows up. Like, it's obvious that there's like a pretty big issue in their relationship. Things don't seem to get normal-ish.
That could be in his head, though, if he was pushing her away in reality, right?
I mean, yeah, it can all be in his head, no matter what.
Maria's like, I have opinions. Go,
Maria. I'm sorry.
No.
We're fighting.
the tiebreaker.
This is riveting. So I mean, this back and forth, I was just like, like this is riveting. Like So the thing is, when I was reading, and this is maybe my what's the word, like lack of imagination, like, not lack, like, just me being more cynical, my cynicism. So when I was reading it, I'm like, this is a bit too childlike, because typically in image books nowadays are a little like, the more, like, the monster stories are like, it's a little bit sci-fi aspect of it, a little bit smarter than this. Like, this is a little bit too childlike, this is a little bit too reality. I'm like, this is not happening. Like, that's why I was thinking about it, that this is not happening in real life, because the idea
it's
that
all over the top, right?
Right, that's the word. Like, it's so over the top. So I was thinking, like, this is probably not, like, and especially the fact that every one of them gets a thing and it works for them. Like, why is that? So thinking about that, I'm like, maybe this is not happening. And then, just like you said, Kristen, when we got to the last thing, and especially when it shows that, he doesn't have, his flowing long hair wasn't actually, it was actually a wig.
That was like the best part, right? Where he whips off his wig.
Right. That was a very powerful moment. And that's when, at least actually in the beginning, I was thinking like, he's actually dealing with grief, because you kind of think that it's his wife that died, right? Mm-hmm. For the longest time, you think that, it's his wife who died. And you're like, okay, maybe something happened to him. So he's like thinking about all of this, and then only we are going to find out that he's actually in some mental institution. And I'm like, that's not going to end. That's we have seen that. But it turns out to be something totally different. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, and that's kind of what I was like, that's why I was thinking about it. And when it happened, you're like, oh no. But I do like, I did kind of like I didn't like the idea, but I do understand that how he pushed his wife away. Although, like, for his wife, it's probably one of the toughest things, but but that whole thing is like, I'm back. Like, that was kind of,
well, that's what really solidified it for me, that I'm like, this isn't happening. Like, this is happening in his head, because for anyone to actually be like, yo, I'm gone for months because I want to push. I mean, that's some pushing away. It's one thing to push someone away and let them be around you. I don't know. But hey, I haven't been through it, and it's very possible this happens.
Sure. And I will say it is over the top. Like, it very much is. And I probably loved how over the top it was, because I'm a child and I love stuff like that. And
I mean, metal itself is over the top, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's, yeah. And like being over the top is like a skill of its own, to be over the top and not be like stupid. Because like, honestly, this reminds me of like straight up, like it reminds me so much, like thinking back to like Power Rangers, like when I was a kid. And
Oh my god! Okay. Finish your thought.
Oh no! Just makes you think of like Power Rangers. Like, I would watch Power Rangers all the time, and I loved how over the top it was. And although we never really got like a super serious, like, heartwarming thing out of Power Rangers, at least when I was watching it, but like the whole idea where they have avatars and there's fighting monsters and all that, it's just like, definitely, it makes me think of Power Rangers, and I love over the top Power Rangers ridiculousness.
So the only reason I was thinking about, like, because the whole idea of like a Power Ranger, I got that feeling as well for some reason, because there's like, the different team, different type of it, even though it's more like, I was thinking his what's the word? His dark material, where everyone has like an animal, avatar. That I was thinking about that as well. But the thing is, that I don't know, for some reason, the Power Ranger, that the like go like it just kind of It reminded me so much of that for some reason. So you bringing that up is just like, I thought that too. Know?
There's so much of that in there, and I think, I mean, I don't know. I've listened to a lot of interviews with Daniel Warren Johnson on podcasts, and he's never cited Power Rangers as an influence, but I bet it was just because he's like super into like Gundam and like anime and manga stuff, and I think you can really tell that through on the art because there's just so much action packed in like every single panel. But I bet he loves Power Rangers because who doesn't?
Apparently, Kristen doesn't.
I never watched it, so I can't say I hate it. I just never watched it.
Reid, is it too late to get the ring back?
I feel like it's too late.
Yeah, I guess so. It's almost been a year.
It's almost been a year. What? It's been a year,
right?
Yeah, that means it's been a year since we interviewed Mark Waid.
I know, right? Oh my God.
That's a big point in like everyone's life. Like we got married, she got to interview Mark Waid the day before it. You know,
big deal.
that was probably more exciting.
He was like the weight of honor. Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
We ran
So
that
funny.
joke to the ground.
No, it's still funny. I think he genuinely thought it was funny. Anyone who doesn't know what we're talking about, by the way, I believe we have a playlist you can find it on.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's in the channel. If you go to our channel, you can find the playlist and you can go look for that. Like if you look for Fangirls with a Z, Mark Waid,
Yeah.
it's one of the best interview that's out there.
I gotta say, it's definitely like I think it's our best interview.
No,
And
it's the best. It's the best interview.
It's pretty
But
great.
genuinely, I think it just went really well. He was a really nice guy, and you know.
Yeah, so we love Mark Waid around here. So Mark, if you're listening, you're always welcome to come back. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just like the whole the power. Like I got all of this nostalgic vibe as well, and I think like that's one of the reason I was like, oh, this is actually someone going through something and using their own like. Jake's own nostalgia is coming through and he's kind of thinking about all of this and this is probably not real. The thing is though, we're saying like, you know, Kristen and I saying that it's not real, you can also say it's real and be
also I don't think he's said to my knowledge Daniel Warren Johnson has even said either way. And I think that's the beauty of it, right? It's like we took something totally different from it than you did. Or, I mean, we all got the same message. With a different journey.
Well, and I'll say that, like, I think, like, the coolest part, I'm trying to find it in the page, is, like, when they're talking about, you know, thinking that they had this idea of, like, how to beat the monsters with music and how you do it. And then there's, like, this big, giant spread where it's like all the people in the world playing music and singing. You've got like this guy over here in a wheelchair and they're making electronic music and beats. And then there's a guy singing in the shower. And it's just like that's like the true power is in making music. It doesn't have anything to do with like metal specifically or things like that. It's just like music is still choosing, like I think it says like still choosing to sing into the void, and like it's just like real deep and like stuff like that. And that was like probably the biggest, like most powerful moment. And maybe I'm just choosing in my own head because that means so much to me personally that like it can't be all in his head because that part like just means so much to me. And so maybe I'm tricking myself into thinking that it's not in his head. But I guess
even if it is in his head, the idea of the monster and everything in his head, but the power of music that he's talking about, that doesn't necessarily have to be in his head, because it's probably because if you think about the monsters to be metaphor for depression and everything, like in all the mental situation you're going for, I mean, justifiably so, he's suffering from cancer. That like the fact that the music is keeping him alive, let's just say, and then keeping him going, it's still a powerful message, and it doesn't have to be whether that aspect of is real or not. And that's, to me, is where Daniel Warren Johnson like did a fantastic job, and this book gets like 5 out of, like, I think 10 out of 5. You know what I mean? Like double them, double the star. Like there's not enough star in Goodreads to give that. So I mean, I like, to me it was like an absolutely well told story, and I was actually more surprised to hear that he's an artist first. Like he's mostly in artist capacity first and then writer first, because most of the time when artist becomes writer, it's usually like becomes too wordy, or story doesn't often jive because I think they overthink the art. On this situation, it's none of it. It's like it was just a perfectly well told story. Which one of the things that he also mentions in the foreword, that he this book, like the idea of this book came from after he was so exhausted and dealt with mental situation that he was in after finishing writing Extremity, because supposedly Extremity took a lot out of him. So it actually got me now interested into going and reading Extremity, because I want to know. And he also talked about how music has been part of his whole life and everything. I mean, to me it was a very well done. So I mean, is there anything more to add?
Well, I just want to add, with us talking about if it was all fantasy or if it was all in his head, I mean, there could be a middle in there as well. I mean, we could take it in a million ways, right? But there is a nice middle where, he could have been getting his band back together. That could have totally happened. He could have been rekindling all these relationships with everyone that he'd pushed away and kept fighting through, getting his friendships back, his relationship back, his relationship with music back. But maybe it wasn't so crazy as he actually saw a Falcon, right? But
Korea's crying.
It's too.
But Murph really still helped him along the way, because him alone could be a symbol of the fight that he had in him, because his fight was so big that it was as big as this crazy Falcon, right?
Right.
That's kind of how I take it, more than, oh, it could have been in his head, or, oh, maybe this didn't happen. More so, it happened in some way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I kind of took it too. That the idea of him meeting up with his friends, all of that's real, but every time a monster came up, that's probably not real. that's how I kind of interpreted that. But honestly, it was just. I mean, thank you so much, Reid, for
You're welcome.
For introducing us to it. We would have seen the metal and we would be like, metal.
I kind of was at first anyway. He was reading it by issue, and I was like, what is this?
Right? We can be those snobby people sometimes.
Well, and I think even someone in the chat was like, oh, L. Denver said, apparently this book is not what I thought.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. Well, and that's what, it's funny on Twitter, because I've tweeted about it a couple times. It's everybody else who tweets about it says they're like, I bought this book because I thought it was going to be some crazy Falcon just kicking shit all the time. And then it's boom, right in the feels. Because that's what it does. Out of nowhere, you get kind of blindsided with whoa.
You don't expect it. You think it's just going to be a goofy punch 'em up, right?
Yeah.
But that's not at all what it is. And that's why, I hope some people did stick around who haven't read it, so they can understand that it's totally way deeper than the summary can tell you. And it's hard to tell you anyone that or describe it without kind of spoiling it.
Right. And Carl Holland, he says that just placed my order for it. Fangirl show is always so funny. Thank you so much.
Hey.
Carl, that's awesome. Thank you. Yeah. And let us know what you think about it.
Yeah.
Let us know. And Freddie Alonso, he's just joining us. He's like, I'm such a dumb guy. I ignored the notification because I didn't notice it was live. It's okay, Freddie.
You're not a dumb, Freddie.
Freddie, you're great.
You're awesome. And, it's okay. We don't usually plan too much ahead of this.
Yeah, we just kind of jumped on too. We didn't know you'd even be live.
I
got to mention too, L. Denver said, show idea, you two read the same book and talk about it for the first time on a live show. That's kind of a fun idea, actually, because Reid and I had already talked about this one.
That would
be fun.
That's true. We should do it blind, completely blind.
Yeah.
Not talk
or maybe he meant Faria and I don't know. Maybe he meant all of us. I don't know what he meant.
I don't know. I'm just good Reid.
Yeah, listen, you are an honorary fangirl. You do know that, right?
By marriage.
Yeah, you're not by marriage, by spirit too.
Fangirl in law. That's what he is.
Yeah, you're fangirl in law. That's what you are.
Aww.
Yes.
Now I'm gonna cry.
Aww.
We're all gonna
cry. So any closing remark?
If anyone's judging this book by its cover, don't. Or do. I mean, guess if you like it, judge
pretty awesome.
Well, he's amazing. His art's amazing. Yeah. But if you judge it by the title and the cover, it's kind of like, I mean, it really is kind of like people judging Buffy by the title of the show. Buffy the Vampire Slayer is a ridiculous title to the show, and you're going to make assumptions about it. But just like there were metaphors in Buffy, the vampires were all a big metaphor. Murder Falcon is full of metaphors or reality. Either way, it's fantastic.
Right. So let me just kind of quickly show the... I don't even know how this works, guys. Let's see. Let's figure this out. Oh, there you go. Okay. Oh my god.
Ah!
Look at that.
You showed everyone behind the scenes.
I felt like I was falling because there's like.
Okay, can you guys see the
Yeah.
like look at this. This is the original. This is the the trade paperback edition of it. And yeah, look at this. It's just like, and the art inside is just as detailed. Like, it's just as detailed and just as awesome. I mean, I cannot recommend this.
Like, no joke, legitimately would get that cover tattooed on my body.
Oh my god.
He would.
Kristen would not approve, but
I wouldn't like it. It's a great cover, but
I would I want a Murder Falcon tattoo so bad. Like,
so
like my whole back.
There's a Bruticus enamel pin. Can you just buy that?
No, I want
it. That to your body.
Yeah, just poke that.
Nope, I want it. Nope, I want that ink done. You've got Jeff Lemire art on you. Why can't I get Daniel Warren Johnson on me?
Because that's way different, and it looks different. And it's different.
It looks different, but it's not way different. Think of all the stupid tattoos I have. Stop and just think about it.
Yeah, I am.
And you know what?
This would be a step up from some of them.
And here's what I'm saying. Reid, it's your body. You do you, my man. Like, you do you. Like,
Hey, look, he can do whatever.
High five, Faria.
But I can still judge him for it. That's how this works. You guys are bad at this. Oh, wow. I should have never let this happen.
No. It happened, you guys. Hold on. We are going to do this. How are we going to do this? How does this thing work, actually? Oh, there you go.
It's mirrored. Wait, can I get part of it? No?
Don't leave a girl hanging.
Oh, I get one? I get one?
Oh my god. And also, just thank you so much for doing this. It was a pleasure. Before we get El Denver said this Murder Falcon show has been an emotional roller coaster. Yes, it was. Right. We cried, we laughed so hard, we completed a full no, it's this way. I don't know how this thing works.
The mirroring is really confusing.
Oh, high five, Kristen. High five.
This is the weirdest high five ever.
And also Mariam is saying, my vote is to tattoo off Ollie.
Oh, wow. I never thought of that.
Don't tempt him, because he will do it.
Can I get like good stuff cheap tattooed over my belly button?
No.
That's not okay.
Yeah.
But I am. I'm good stuff.
No, Reid, I'm going to veto that. Kristen,
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Fine. I'll just get Murder Falcon.
Okay.
I'll get a big old back piece of Murder Falcon.
Yeah, see? Okay, so Reid, that was the plan, right? I mean,
back piece is fine.
We did.
I think a big back piece would be pretty cool.
Wear a shirt a lot. It's fine.
Honestly, not anymore. Not once I get that back tat.
Anyway, thank you so much for keep joining us, everyone in the chat. Freddie Alonso is like that high five fiasco is totally worth joining late. This is why you are all the best.
Thank you, Freddie.
Thank you. And
we got to plug our show tomorrow.
Oh yeah, we do.
Are we doing that live?
Of course, we're doing that.
Oh, fantastic. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yes. So. Oh yes. Right. Oh yeah. Tomorrow. Yeah. Guys.
Oh yeah,
we have an approximate time for it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, everyone, listen. Thank you so much for joining us. This was Goodreads, our very first episode of Goodreads, where we talked about Murder Falcon by Daniel Warren Johnson. If you want to see more of this just super fun friend time,
where we
give
us a thumbs up.
Yeah, where we talk about comics. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and let us know if there's any other book we should be reading for the first time, not talk with each other, and then just show up in the show. And hey, we may get Goodreads to come with us as well on this. He can be convinced. He can be
I'll
convinced.
convince them. Yeah.
Every time you come do it, Kristen gonna let you do a part of that tattoo.
Yeah. You get a little line.
You get a little line.
That'll be the most painful long tattoo
Our episode you come here.
I've sat for so long, it'd be so worth it.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. And so tomorrow we are going to be, Kristen and I, we're going to be back with our friend OmniDog, Jess from the OmniDog's Vault. And we're going to be talking about Image Comics. And we are planning on making that 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right?
I believe it should be on about 3 p.m. Yes.
Right. So, I mean, obviously, join us in all of our social media. You can see in the description below, and then you're gonna know when we're gonna go live and once we do live.
And here's a little tease. Here's a little tease of some stuff we may talk about, huh?
For anyone who knows what that is. So join us tomorrow for that. And obviously, the House of X and the Powers of 10, the review continues. The very, very detailed analysis that as more issue comes out, the more detailed that Peter, Zach, and Tyler goes, and I am just going like, yeah, you tell me. Yeah, you go, boys. Like, so if you want to see more of that, you can find that in our playlist below. So go do all of that. There's so much fun stuff coming, guys. I'm so excited, and thank you for joining me again, Kristen, Goodreads, and it was fun. So
thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.